So last night, I had a very interesting conversation with some folks that I know. And I was thinking about this, and I actually posted about this on Instagram. And I made a mention of it in a post on Instagram this morning. And choosing grace, because my third book is coming out next month, and it's called Grace Canceled. And it's about how you have to choose grace pretty much every single day in every aspect of everything. And that's the only way we're going to stop cancel culture and, et cetera, et cetera. But man, is it a choice. It's not something that is woven into the spiritual DNA of a person. Let's put it like that. And it is a choice every day. And sometimes it's a choice made reluctantly. Sometimes maybe every time, you're kicking and screaming with a lot of it. And I was thinking about this as I had this conversation yesterday. And I always expect for there to be disingenuousness when it comes from the left. Because that's what too many on the left, the far left particularly, trade in. Whenever they're discussing a story and they want to obscure or not, or just ignore the facts of the matter, they engage in ad hominem, etc. And it's always very troubling when I see people on the right do it. And it's particularly even more troubling than the regular troubling when I think so much of that animus is inspired by simple dislike of who is in the White House. And that's what I was thinking of with the story on Eddie Gallagher. Now, I've had Eddie on the show. I know the Gallagher family. I know a lot of the people that are involved with this case. I followed it from the beginning, which is more than I can say from some of the people who are out there talking about it on Twitter and on Facebook today. Some of them even verified righties. Honestly, there are times when I think that some of the biggest crusaders for truth in journalism are the ones that are most full of shh. So, just a recap of this. So the story that came out about this thing with Eddie Gallagher is that he put a video up on Facebook. And he was discussing the case that had been settled between him and a couple of these guys that had accused him of some pretty heinous things. And I've discovered that it is very difficult for some people to simply limit themselves to the facts and not allow their very strong dislike of Trump shade their perspective on this case because Trump intervened. Now, this guy, I know the individuals who were trying to undermine him and trying to hurt his reputation. They immediately were accommodated by legacy media. And there were more people, vastly more people, who were supportive of Gallagher and who called shenanigans on the stuff that was being said. Unfortunately, many of them were gagged. So that helpfully created that narrative of, well, there's more. It looks like there's more people speaking out. Yeah, that happens when you have people who are biased gag other individuals from speaking about the case. Interesting how that works, isn't it? And so I saw there was a story that had been retweeted, and this video that had gone up on Instagram. It discussed the people who had been continuing to go out and say all this garbage about Eddie and his reputation and everything else. And I've talked to so many people who have served with him, who have deployed with him. And the stuff that has been said about him in the press, I think they just wanted to go after a guy. And I think that the target on him got bigger when Trump got involved. And all of the information that Eddie had put, because he had video of these guys giving, I guess, depositions and them talking about the case and their names. And so now he was being accused, and it was in Daily Mail and elsewhere, of Eddie doxed all of these people and put them out. He's getting revenge, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's not accurate. Now, on the left, I don't expect accuracy. But on the right, I do. Especially if that's your calling card when you're engaging in debate with the left. The revenge actually started when Eddie was taken to trial on bunk charges. And the revenge case was because of a couple of individuals who, according to some who were there and some who know them, the story goes is that they did not like that Eddie ran a tight ship and expected people to do certain things at certain times, and they were told to do it. And the story is, and as it has been reported at least by a couple of reasonably fair entities, is that they did not want that about their reputation to get out. And so they decided to go after Gallagher's. And I had people who were in my timeline and who were talking with me and saying that, well, he had killed someone. Actually, he stabbed this guy. He stabbed a teenager. I had a conservative actually tell me, yeah, he killed this teenager. A couple things with this. First off, you saying that shows me that you didn't pay attention to the case, particularly when there was an operator who testified that it was he who actually did it, not Gallagher. So that's number one. Number two, that quote unquote teenager was on the battlefield with ISIS. Why are you also choosing to infantilize, make infants of their terrorists? We have 18-year-old servicemen out there too. We have teenagers who are serving as well. We call them men. And as I understand how it was reported, that's the situation with this terrorist who was part of ISIS. And what that operator had testified was that he was the one who actually did it, and Gallagher was getting accused of it. And the reason that all of this information and all of this stuff that was in the video that Eddie Gallagher had posted is even known is because the prosecution leaked it like a year ago to the press. How do you think that those videos are out there? How do you think the names are out there? How do you think all of this discussion is out there? The prosecution leaked it, just like they first leaked all of this stuff and all of the smears about Eddie to the press while he was still active duty, thereby endangering his family, if you want to have that conversation. And the fact that they won't stop going at him even after this has been settled. And interestingly enough, the only thing of which he was convicted, and I don't like civilians getting involved and telling military people how it is, telling servicemen, telling veterans how it is. But I do think that, yes, as a civilian and a taxpayer, you have every right to get involved, particularly when you see the truth being mutilated. The only charge of which he was convicted was a photograph with a deceased terrorist. And it's odd because he was the only person out of the others who were in that photograph who was actually charged. And apparently the people who were trying to undermine him were also involved, and they were not charged. That seems to me a glaring inconsistency. And to have strength to any argument, there must be some sort of consistency to it. So you can dislike the fact that he responded after a couple of years of a revenge campaign against him to clear his name with easily, publicly, all over the place accessible information. And you can choose to refer to terrorists trying to kill our men and women as just teenagers and trying to turn them into infants the way Joe Biden tries to turn his 50-year-old child into an infant, and ignore the fact that we have teens who are serving and coming back for defending you as well. And you can try to obscure truth, and you can show everyone that this is more about ego than fact. And you can unfollow me on social media. Like I've said from the beginning, I ain't in this to win your friendship.